Welcome to the speaking section of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I will be your examiner for this part of the test. I'm recording this for clerical purposes. This is candidate number 95347186. This is examiner number 17295. We are currently conducting this exam in Kolkata. The time right now is 15 o'clock. The speaking has three parts. I will give you instructions for each. To begin, may I see your identification?
Yes, gladly. Here is my passport that I use for both the online registration and a check-in. Please have a look.
What is your full name?
My surname is Mandel and my first name is Jalil, just as it's in my passport. Please call me Jalil.
Okay, Jalil. For part one, I will ask you a couple of questions to get to know you better and some questions on a general topic. Where do you live?
I live in West Bengal, here in India, in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Kolkata. I've lived here all my life.
What do you do in your free time?
In my spare time, I like to watch a good flick or go out with some of my friends. Just yesterday, I did both. I went out with 2 of my friends to the theater and we had a great time.
Let's talk about parents. How often do you see your parents?
Fortunately, I see my parents every day because, as I had mentioned earlier, I'm living at home. I saw both my mom and dad this morning before coming to this exam.
Where do your parents live?
They reside in the same house as me, just on the outskirts of Kolkata. My mom and dad bought our home just before my older brother was born, back at the end of the 90s.
What do you like about your mom and dad?
I think my mom and dad are great. Specifically, they are very supportive of my decisions and they love me very much. Both my mom and dad take their time to resolve challenges that come up in my life. Most recently, my decision to study abroad and the best way to go about this.
Why is it important to have good parents?
Having good parents, in my opinion, is the key to have a happy, healthy, and successful life. I mean, parents are the foundation for the ideologies and behaviors that a person develops to navigate their life. Good parents like mine empower their children to be confident and ambitious.
How has parenting changed from one generation before?
That's tough to say. I think that parenting has evolved from a generation ago, especially in the sense of respect that's given by parents to their children. I think during my grandparents' time, children were loved, but were treated as less equal to adults. And parents these days have a greater sense of respect for the emotions and perspectives of their children, and this has been a positive change.
If you could change your parents in some way, what would it be?
Honestly, I don't think I would change any part of my parents, as I love them just the way they are. However, if I could, I would wave my magic wand so that they can have even more financial security and never have to worry about money.
Jalil earns an incredible Band 9 on her speaking part 1 for several reasons. Right away, during the introduction, when she presents her ID and gives her name, she shows calm, confident, and fluent English. She explains to the examiner her full name and then requests the examiner to call her Jalil. Afterwards, for every single answer in part 1, she is able to produce accurate, detailed, grammatically complex responses showing great lexical resource and clear pronunciation. Let's take a look at some of these questions and answers in detail. For the icebreaker question, where she lives, Jalil answers with detail and she does not rush her response. She explains that she lives in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Kolkata. Notice that beautiful vocabulary right away. In fact, she even includes present perfect, saying, I've lived here all my life. Right away, this tells the examiner that he is dealing with an expert user of the English language. A lot of students rush into their answers, and because they're trying to speak too quickly, they miss complex grammar and they miss details. It is not a good idea to try to speak too quickly. It's better to focus on coherence, structure, vocabulary, and grammar. Jalil cleverly paraphrases many of the key words in the examiner's questions. When the examiner asks about what she does in her free time, she responds by saying that in my spare time. This is showing the examiner that Band 9 level lexical resource. To get those high band scores during your speaking interview, you have to paraphrase often. This not only shows lexical resource, but also improves the coherence of your answers, making your answers more understandable for the listener. In fact, coherence is also improved by Jalil's ability to connect among her responses. When the examiner asks her about where her parents live, she makes the connection by saying, as I had mentioned earlier, I live in the same house as my parents. It's this type of connective information that really leads to that expert level of communication. Now, many of you probably realized that Jalil uses frequent natural fillers during her speech. Natural fillers are sound expressions like and she even breaks her eye contact, kind of looking away or looking down. This is called mental referencing, meaning that she's looking inside of her mind to think about good ideas and information to say to the examiner. She is not stuck for vocabulary or for grammar. This is clear. So in this case, the ahs and ums in Jalil's speech do not take away from her overall performance. In fact, they improve it because the quality of her answers are that much better. Another very important skill that Jalil adapts for part 1 is her visual speech. This means that her answers are easy for the examiner to picture in his mind. When the examiner asks about what she would change about her parents, she responds by saying, if I could wave my magic wand, I would give my parents more financial security so that they would never have to worry about money. This is very natural visual language, again, leading to that expert level of communication. As we watch the rest of this interview and lesson, I want to give you the ultimate help for a perfect Band 9 score on your next IELTS exam. Join our premium IELTS package for strategies, videos, practice exams, and interactive courses. Use the code ULTIMATE9 for a 25% discount. Click the link in the video description. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. Now, part 2. Jalil, your 1-minute preparation time is up. Please begin speaking.
About a year ago, I had a chance to briefly meet with Anamika Khanna, who is one of the most well-known fashion designers in India. And I remember being super nervous as she has been one of my idols and inspirations since my teenage years. Ms. Khanna is a beautiful and hardworking fashion designer who is well known for blending traditional Indian textile with Western silhouettes. Her designs are just stunning. I had a chance to meet with her during the Culture Week in New Delhi in the year of 2016. She has been showcased in Paris Fashion Week, and it's fair to say that her designs are recognized not just in India but also worldwide. And the Culture Week that I mentioned before, it was a fashion event that I had attended as a teenager, and it was life-changing for me. I was awestruck by all the beauty, creativity, and glamour of the event, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of it. After the fashion shows, there was a chance for the public to meet with some of the celebrity designers, including Miss Khanna, who was by that time an idol for me. I had always wondered what had inspired her to become a fashion designer, and even more importantly, where she draws her creative inspiration for her amazing productions. I remember having butterflies in my stomach when I finally got a chance to speak with her, and I felt like I wouldn't be able to make a sound. She was very pleasant and made me feel comfortable. I asked her my questions and she kindly replied. This was definitely one of the most nerve-wracking interactions I've ever had, and it was also exhilarating.
Your time is up. I will stop you there and I will take back the questions. Please put your note paper to the side, turn it over along with the pencil. Part 2 of this speaking interview is arguably the most challenging because most people do not practice giving short speeches, especially not in a foreign language, on a daily basis. However, Jaleel does a fantastic job and she is well prepared. Clearly, she has rehearsed and practiced responding to Part 2 questions before sitting the exam. This is evident from the way she starts her response. When the examiner tells her that her 1-minute preparation time is up, she looks from the note paper, takes a breath, places her hands on the table, and calmly, confidently presents her first sentence. She explains that about a year ago she had the chance to meet with Anamika Khanna, who had made her very nervous at that time. Paying attention to responding to the topic question on the cue card. Talk about a person that made you nervous. It's very important that you answer that topic question right away. In fact, Jaleel not only reflects the topic of the cue card, but she emphasizes it by saying that she was super nervous. Throughout her 1 to 2 minute response, Jaleel takes natural pauses, checking the cue card and checking her notes. This is very important for her to give a well-structured, detailed, and non-repetitive answer. A lot of students forget to do this. They get frustrated, they get nervous, they forget about their notes and they forget about the questions. They tend to repeat themselves and run out of ideas. Stay confident, stay calm, use your notes. Jaleel continues to use Band 9 lexical resource throughout speaking Part 2. She explains that she would ask Ms. Khanna about where she draws her inspiration and her ideas. In fact, she even uses an idiom to reflect the topic of the cue card. She says that she had butterflies in her stomach, meaning that she was very nervous. Cleverly, Jaleel reflects the topic right away at the beginning, around the middle, and again at the end of her response. She says that it was a very nerve-wracking experience, but that it was exhilarating. Keep in mind that for that Band 9 score, you need to focus on the questions of the cue card. You cannot go off topic. If you do, there's a good chance the examiner will stop you. One way to save yourself from going off topic is to reflect back on the original question. Talk about a person that made you feel nervous. Jaleel does this exceptionally. Now, on to part 3.
For this part, I will ask you a question related to your response and some questions connected to this topic. Have you ever had the chance to meet with Ms. Khanna since that time?
No, I haven't. But hopefully, I would like to meet her someday when I become a fashion designer.
Let's talk about first impressions. What should a person pay attention to when meeting an important individual like a teacher or a boss for the first time?
I think that it's important to be polite and make eye contact when first introducing to a teacher or an employer.
Why is this?
I think that the person should feel honesty and respect from the individual so that it sets the foundation for a positive relationship going forward. I really pay attention to this myself.
How well can a person evaluate someone based on the first time meeting?
That's tough to say. Honestly, I don't think a person can truly gauge another's character just based on their first time interaction. Although first impressions do give some important information, people are very complex and have different moods on different days. So it's not fair to judge a person on one-time conversation.
Is this always true?
I think it is most of the time because people do change and they are complicated emotionally.
In what ways has meeting people for the first time changed from 30 years ago?
I think that technology has had a bigger impact on people's first hookups these past 3 decades. Nowadays, people will often meet online before they meet in person through social apps like Tinder or Instagram.
How has this impacted relationships?
I think mostly meeting virtually for the first time affects people's expectations since it's hard to know how much of that person is genuine. A lot of people fake their profiles and even their pictures to cast an unrealistic image of themselves to others.
Let's talk about networking with people. What are the benefits of building relationships with people in the community?
Getting to know people in the neighborhood is advantageous for building a sense of security and belonging. In case of emergencies, it's very beneficial to be able to rely on people close by for help. My family is quite tight with people living around us, and this has been very helpful in many cases. Like the other day when my neighbor helped my dad to jumpstart his car.
Are there any negatives?
I think sometimes neighbors can be nosy or judgmental, and this can be drawbacks of living in a tight community. But this is less important than the benefits I mentioned.
How has technology impacted the way people network?
Just as I mentioned previously, technology has had a major impact on the way people build and establish their social groups, specifically through communication channels that didn't even exist before the advent of the internet.
Is this a good development?
I think this is positive for most part as it gives additional tools for staying in touch that didn't even exist before. The one downside may be that people don't get to meet people in a face-to-face.
That is the end of part 3. That concludes the speaking section of the exam. You will have your mark in 2 days online, and you will have your official certificate in the mail in 10 days. Goodbye, Jaleel.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Jaleel's answers in part 3 continue to be a band 9 for coherence, fluency, grammatical range accuracy, lexical resource, and pronunciation. Simply put, she is a perfect band 9. When the examiner follows up on her part 2 answer and asks if she has ever met Ms. Khanna since that time, immediately Jaleel responds with a present perfect. She recognizes that the question was in present perfect. So she says, "No, I haven't," and then continues to show fluency. She says, "But I hope to meet her again someday when I become a fashion designer." So she shows complex grammar by using a subordinating conjunction of time, when I become a famous fashion designer. This kind of complex natural language continues for the rest of part 3. Similarly to part 1, in part 3, Jaleel takes natural pauses and slows her intonation to allow time for thinking. This is absolutely okay. In fact, I advise you to do this. Most importantly, you have to come up with good answers, especially when you're looking for that Band 8, Band 9 score. Jaleel is methodical in her responses. Again, she paraphrases at the highest level. When the examiner asks her whether or not it's possible to truly evaluate a person based on first impressions, Jaleel responds by saying that she doesn't believe it's accurate to gauge a person upon first interactions. It's this high level of methodical paraphrase speech that gets those perfect scores. Jaleel is incredibly clever in the sense that she keeps her thoughts simple yet original. When the examiner asks her about how first interactions have changed from the past, immediately Jaleel remembers that technology has a significant impact on people when compared to the past. She paraphrases and emphasizes that technology has had a bigger impact on first hookups than before. And then she even gives the examples of Tinder and Instagram. It's this type of clear communication that gets those high band scores. You have to be careful not to use very unique and outlandish ideas which are difficult to express. In fact, Jaleel does a fantastic job of connecting her part 3 answers not only to part 2, but even to part 1. When the examiner asks about why it's important to network with people in the community, she remembers talking about her parents in part 1. And she gives the example of her family having a good relationship with the people in their neighborhood, and this leading to some help for her father when he had car troubles. This type of connected, coherent communication is sure to get you that perfect score. For new IELTS materials every week, videos, strategies, interactive courses, visit and join our premium package at gieltshelp.com and use the code ULTIMATE9 for that 25% discount. Again, it's a one-time payment for lifetime access. Good luck the next time you sit your IELTS exam. Subscribe to our channel. Click over here. Watch another video? Click right up here. And join our premium package. Click on our hero to practice your speaking, get videos, exams, and an interactive course.